Our church has a short but rich heritage. For over 17 years, God has had His hand on everything we've done. It's been amazing to see, but it all started with a simple dream. May 21st, 2000, when 12 people gathered in the Days Inn conference room for our very first service. It was humble but exciting beginnings following God into the Uncharted.
It was kind of awkward going to the theater. We had to pack our stuff in and pack it out in bins, and we had dollies, a little karaoke machine that we used as our sound system. And it was every Sunday morning, it was like starting over. And when we would come out of the theater, you'd smell the popcorn popping. They were getting ready for the afternoon shows, and it was a little awkward, because I came from a traditional country church, and it was very different.
After about a year of meeting in the movie theater, the church took its next step of faith into the Uncharted and purchased its first location, a warehouse in an industrial parkway. There's no way that the church should have ever grown there, but yet it did. They followed God into the Uncharted, and big things happened. But it wasn't just a big step of faith in the Uncharted for the church itself, but for members of the church.
I definitely saw it at the time as an act of faith, because the church was really small, and I didn't know what the building cost, but I knew that there were 20 to 30 people there in the theater every week. Those folks had faith. I mean, some of those people co-signed for that building, and you want to talk about an act of faith. In my mind, nothing says faith like being willing to co-sign for a building. So
actually, as soon as we stepped in, Daryl and I looked at each other and said, "This is it." It was dirty. It didn't smell real pretty, but I mean, I knew as soon as we stepped on that this was where we were going to be next. We wanted to make sure that we had somewhere, we knew we wanted to grow. That's been the best thing about this church, is we've always never thought we were going to stay in one place. We wanted to make sure that we kept having room for people, and we wanted a place where we could sell it.
We changed a lot in when people came in. We kind of changed to what they needed. We weren't afraid of change, and I think that brought in a lot more people because of that.
We didn't want to move into an old church because we knew those were hard to sell afterwards. So, that was our mindset, and as soon as we walked in there, it had everything that we were kind of looking for at that time.
God continued to bless the church. In over 5 years of meeting in the warehouse, it was busting at the seams in multiple services. Again, the church decided to take a new step of faith and follow God again, this time to the property where the current Jasper campus is built.
Proud to be here and be a part of His church and His kingdom, and it's an exciting day. And I'd just like to ask all of our people who were here on the first service, and if you came the second week of the service to the Christian Church of Jasper, we're going to ask you to come forward and start taking a scoop. And after you take your scoop, then we're going to ask anybody else that wants to come up and take a scoop of dirt, and let's just pile it all in one spot, and we'll get a head start for that bulldozer tomorrow.
And they purchased over 20 acres and built what seems like, at the time, a giant 15,000 square foot building. The church had grown to over 250 people, and they stepped out in faith and went beyond what anybody could have imagined. After relocating, the church continued to grow, and God was calling us in all kinds of different uncharted ways. This time was more than just about our current location. God called the church to do something even bigger. We felt the call to start an orphanage, a Christian home in Haiti, a country that we'd been heavily involved with. And so the elders of the church decided to get involved in a big way. And we gave out over $5,000 to our members in different increments. And we asked them to put that money to work, to raise more money to build this orphanage. We called it 99 days. It was definitely uncharted territory. We didn't know what would happen. But at the end of that 99 days, God, through our people, had raised over $44,000 to build this orphanage. And the orphanage is now the House of Hope Christian Girls Home, and there's 16 girls who have life, health, a Christian education, and so much more because people followed God into the uncharted. Continuing to need more worship space, the leaders decided it was time to add to our current facility, and in 2010, we opened up a new 35,000 square foot ministry space. It included a state-of-the-art children's ministry area, a great big lobby for our people to gather and fellowship and do all kinds of events, Christian education classrooms and meeting rooms, and an office complex. And it was great, but it still didn't help our need to add more space for worship. We needed to make room for more because we were trying to reach people for Jesus Christ. And so in 2014, the church stepped out in faith again and opened up a new 1,000-seat worship auditorium, bigger than anything we had ever imagined. And at the very first service, we were over 1,000 people and soon averaging 1,300 and 1,400 people. As we stepped out in unfamiliar territory, faith on the horizon, God continued to show up bigger than ever. The leaders of what was called then the Christian Church of Jasper knew getting in the worship center was great, but it was not the finish line. Because we had so many people we wanted to reach throughout this region. There's so many unchurched and lost people throughout our region. And so we knew that God had laid a bigger vision, a vision into the uncharted waters of something that no one had ever done around here. And that was that we wanted to open up multiple campuses, one church in multiple locations in our region. And early in 2015, we announced that we were opening our very first multi-site, and it was going to be in Logodi, Indiana. Opening up a new multi-site was scary, but we knew that God was in it. We also knew that our name, which was the Christian Church of Jasper, was a great name. It had served us well as we were located in just Jasper. But as we began to expand, we knew that we needed something different, a new name that would describe who we are, that would be not specific to one location. And so at the beginning of June, starting June 1st, this church will be known as Redemption Christian Church. That's our name. After changing our name to Redemption Christian Church of May of 2016, later on that year in December, we opened our very first multi-site campus in Logodi, Indiana.
There were a lot of people questioning what is happening, what is going on, how could you put a church in that building, and still people just wanting to know what is going on there. I think that's what's bringing people in. They don't understand what can happen with their life until they walk in that door.
Who would have imagined we'd have the numbers we have and worshiping in a former shopping building? And it just goes to show you what God can do. Has nothing to do with any one or any individuals. It's all God's plan, so it's hard to say what He has in store for us. But when we started going to Redemption Church 9 years ago, we were in the, I think, 500-600 in attendance range, and we're quickly approaching that already. So it's hard to say what God will do in that building.
We know that our mission is not over. Our future is even going to be greater than our past. God is not calling us to be satisfied with where we are, but to go beyond. We know that God is not just satisfied with growing our buildings here or even just opening up another campus here, but He wants us to do far more. There are so many people that need the Lord. We need to pay down debt so that we're not giving all of our money in interest to lending institutions, but we can use more resources for God's kingdom. We want to not only open new campuses in this region, but we want to increase what we give to our missionaries. We want to be able to increase what we give in supporting this new church plant in Boston that Drew and his crew is going to plant in one of the most unchurched areas in our country. We know that God has big things in store for us, and it involves us all stepping out in faith and trusting Him. We are going to go places that we've never been and do things that we've never done with resources that only God can provide. But to do that, we need you and we need me to step up and follow God with faith beyond the horizon into the uncharted. So will you follow God? Will you go with us into the uncharted?